Hi, my name is Cindy, aka Z9designs. Today we're supposed to make something out of a paper towel holder, a hanger, and a tin man. Oh, I meant tin can. So sit back and watch me get my imagination on. Just my imagination. DIY number 1, wire hanger flower. The supplies needed include 2 wire hangers, some beige burlap, hot glue, jute, and zip ties. Now, this was a tough one because the wire hangers that I had were very difficult to bend. Because I had one thing in mind, but when I tried to bend the hangers, then I had to go to plan B. However, with some elbow grease, I was able to bend the wire to look somewhat like a flower petal and stem. I don't know, but the wire hangers just don't seem to be flimsy these days. That would have helped. After I bended it to the shape I was happy with, I used black zip ties to hold the flower together. Then I got some beige burlap from my stash and began to cut the fabric into smaller pieces. And basically what I did was cut it into shapes that represented the flower shape. Next, I began to hot glue the fabric shapes onto the wire hanger. I did that until all of the fabric was glued to the floral shape. Next, I cut the ragged edges to make it look more put together. And it was starting to look pretty good, but I still wasn't satisfied with the outcome so far. The middle of the flower or the stamen needed some help to cover up those zip ties and wire hanger parts. And to cover up that hot mess, I just used a strip of fabric. I kind of rolled it in a messy way and just hot glued it to the center of the flower. Now, I still wasn't done because the edge of the flower was still a little ragged. And so I found some jute that was in my stash, and I just put that around each flower petal for a cohesive look. And lastly, I took a lighter and I burned all the fuzzies, and now it is a flower that you can hang on the wall or lean on the shelf. Plus, you can bend the stem whichever way you want to sit on the shelf or just to hang on the wall. And it is sort of a rustic, maybe a little shabby chic. So let me know what you think of my imagination of the hanger flower. Just Our Imagination is hosted by Rustic and Lace DIY and Kathy Jo DIYs. The co-host this month is OK at Home DIY. Wow, all of these DIYs. These women have amazing imaginations and are super duper crafters. The link to their channels is listed in the description box below. And there are other crafters that have used their imagination to make some unique items. The link to the playlist is listed in the description box below. So, hey, just sit back and imagine what each collaborator is going to make out of the challenges we were given. DIY number 2, tin can wind chimes. The supplies for the wind chimes include 3 tin cans of various sizes, napkins, Mod Podge regular and dishwater safe, and some jute, and tops of 2 cans, hammer and a nail. And you need pretty much all of these. I found 3 tin cans. One was small, medium, and a little bit larger. I removed the labels, cleaned them up, and let them dry. Next, I found the right napkins with pink roses and green leaves and removed the 1 ply and set it aside. You know, I kind of wanted it to kind of flow, so I wanted to use all pink flowers. But hey, I did do one of the cans in black, but when I put it together with everything, it just didn't look right. So I set that aside for maybe another project at a later time. So Mod Podge was added to the largest can first, and I spread the Mod Podge on a small area, and then I started laying the napkin down. And I did that, by adding the remaining napkin until it was round can number 1. Then I used a different napkin that was added to the next size can using the same process until that was all completed. And then lastly, I used a final different napkin that was added to the smallest can using the same process. I took a nail and hammered it at the top of the can in order to thread the jute through. Now I put some hot glue on the end of some jute, and I used a yard worth of jute. Now I probably didn't need that much, but I wanted to make sure that I had enough. So I put a little hot glue on the end because I needed that to thread through the opening that was made by the nail. And I threaded the jute through the largest can, and then I just tied a double knot. Then I threaded it through the second can, knotting it in between, and it in between about 6 inches. And the third, I knotted that in between so that each can was not stuffed inside the other can, but there was about half of a can that came down so that when the wind blows, it would knock together and make some noise. I also did that for the third one also. So after that, I had a long piece of jute that was hanging out. So I took a top from one can, I punched a hole using punch, and then also did that to a smaller one. Those were threaded through the jute and knotted so when the wind blows, they can make a little noise also. And I spray painted them white. Now this is very cute and it makes a nice sound when the wind blows. So let me know what you think about that. DIY number 3, a paper towel holder lamp. The supplies needed include metal paper towel holder. This is from Dollar Tree, and all of these things were in my stash. I didn't buy anything. E6000 glue and a metal basket, some zip ties, fairy lights, and top of a candle, old candle that I didn't use anymore, and a knob. The fairy light lamp was a work in progress, and I was able to cut the top of the metal paper towel holder in half using a wire cutter. Now, I will have to say this was very difficult, but I got it done and won't do that anymore. After that debacle, I bent the two sides of the paper towel holder to kind of form an angle in the middle. Then I used some E6000 to reattach the top together along with some clamps. Once that was accomplished and it was dry, I took a wire basket from my stash and zip tied that to the top of the paper towel holder with some E6000 and the zip ties. Once that was dry, I took some fairy lights and wrapped them around the shade here and there. And, you know, I did not want to paint the metal. I left it just as it was, you know, but you can. I may decide to do that later on. But it is the two colors of this lamp are silver and gold. But I needed to put something on top of the shade to kind of cover up the zip ties and the fairy lights that I put in there. So I used the top of a candle container, and then I had a knob in my stash. So I took the middle part out and used E6000, attached that to the top of the candle top. Now, I did not use E6000. I do not want this to be permanent because I might find something a little bit better to put on there. I just did that so it wouldn't fall off. Now, this is a unique and modern lighting. It is maybe not for everyone, but it sure is fantastic. Kind of looks like a little night light, but it is so cool. So you have to let me know what you think of this. This is like thinking out of the box because honestly, I had no idea what I was going to do with this. I had one idea, but because the wire is so tough on the paper towel holder, I couldn't really do what I wanted to do. So I did my very best. So if you've liked what you've seen, please subscribe, like, save, and comment. Crafting is satisfying, but I will have to tell you, it is work and it's challenging sometimes, especially when we get to just your imagination. I appreciate your encouraging comments. Also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Facebook. And thanks for watching each and every week. I appreciate all of your comments. And remember, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. And this is unknown. Okay, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.